Tapped In Media, Russ and Rojo return with a very special guest. A long time in the making for this one. But of course, before we get into our next guest, thank you so much to Steve Gregory from KFI AM 640 for joining us at 3P Studios and giving him his time and his valuable insights in investigative journalism. That is going to check out on our YouTube channel. Plus our very first in-person guest in the studio, right?
Yep, that was our first in-person guest, which we were excited about.
Which is cool,
we hope to have a few more.
Yeah, no doubt. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and head over to our YouTube channel at Tapped In Media. Give a subscribe, give a like, and just go ahead and leave a comment, say hello, whatever it is, or what we need to improve on, or something you don't like. That's fine too. We'll take whatever. but the best way to do that then to support us would be doing that. Also hit us up on Instagram at tappedin_media and on
TikTok.
Yeah.
At tappedin_media. I know you don't like TikTok, but you know, we're just trying to find other sources of exposure. So
I'm a big YouTube guy. I like some YouTube stuff.
So do I.
All right, no, I'm cool with it, but we'll do that. We'll do that. But make sure you check out some other videos, and like I said, go ahead and hit a like. Our next guest, though. This is cool, man.
Yeah, we've been trying to work with this one for a while.
Yeah, this is awesome.
He's took some scheduling and all that, and we understand he's a very busy man.
Our next guest, a video creator making a lot of noise right now around Los Angeles, and this is super fun. With a quick history of people, landmarks, and creations throughout LA, this creator, I mean, he's getting a ton of attention on many media outlets. It's crazy.
He's on Good Day LA, KTLA.
Yeah, huge following, over 219,000 followers on IG, no big deal, and about 10K subs on YouTube. Pretty impressive. Yeah, we've done our little homework here, making many appearances, like you were saying, on those media outlets, right? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tapped In, Evan Lovett from LA in a minute. Yes, man.
What is up, guys? Thanks for having me here. And I do want to acknowledge scheduling. I was very sporadic at best, so thank you for being flexible and working with that.
All good, man.
Patient. I know that, dude, because I'm so compulsive or impetuous sometimes that, like, when I want to cover stuff, I got to cover it, and I want to get this story done because I'm so excited to get it out. So sometimes I'm like running around, but I apologize, but I appreciate you guys being flexible. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Oh man, this is so
you know
cool.
What? All the love is on this side, man, just because the stature that you're at, for us to be given this opportunity to be actually able to talk to you.
Oh yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's really cool, man.
It's no stature.
Come on, man.
Love LA and appreciate it. I mean, like, I never set out to have X amount of followers or whatever. It's the fact that we're enjoying this exploration of Los Angeles in a way that hasn't been done in the modern era, at least. And we're all on this ride together. So, I mean, I think everybody just has the love for LA, and that I tapped into something like that.
Tapped in.
So, by the way, I want to. Who said they didn't like TikTok?
Oh, I'm not a big TikTok fan.
I don't want to hijack the discussion, but I just gotta say something about that. Not only did I not like TikTok, I would forbid my son from getting on TikTok. I would talk. Can I use language?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, man.
I would talk shit in my head about people like on TikTok all the time. TikTok is basically the catalyst for why LA in a Minute became LA in a Minute, because I kid you not. I was doing news. My first episodes were like this. I was like, what is up this year, LA in a Minute? Here's what happened today. Here's what happened today. And like, I got 1,000 followers in 2 weeks. I was on Twitter, an avid user of Twitter for like for 13 years. And I had 700 followers, and I get like 6 likes on a good tweet. And I was like, what? Like TikTok. So I feel you on that approach, on what TikTok is, but I am thankful for TikTok. And when they talk about banning in the US, I get a little nervous.
So is that where you use some of your green screens? So when you talk about some of the LA gems that you talk about, some of the LA places, I mean, you use the green screen.
I go in person to as many as I can. I think that's kind of the appeal for me, is being there and feeling it. I don't think that you can report it accurately I don't know. You guys are younger or circa my age.
No.
You remember that movie, Good Will Hunting?
Of course.
Yes.
Okay, there's a scene with Robin Williams and Matt Damon, and Matt Damon's like the smartest dude ever, and Robin Williams like, you may be able to tell me how many brush strokes he used and the type of paint, but you can't tell me what the Sistine Chapel smells like because you've never been there. And I think when you're reporting a story or whether it's King Taco, or whether it's Wilmington, or whether it's Greenspan's clothing, I can tell the stories. But being there, you get that extra feel, that extra emotion, like in the community, and especially so many things are so valuable to these communities. But to answer your question, for the majority of the episodes, because I don't always film the entire episode on scene, I use a lot of green screen. And yes, believe it or not, I don't use any software. I still use my TikTok to create. And I know I need to graduate past that.
That's so cool.
But I'm comfortable
with.
But
it works. It works, right?
That does work, because one of our biggest challenges is the editing, and I'm like a rookie in Adobe Premiere. But I'm getting pretty good at it now, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. But it's just the timing, and you're right. When you go out there and do all this content, you got to be quick, and you got to, get it off fast. So
I try to, but you know what? There is better editing software, and most, if not all, creators use them. Luckily, it works for me. But I do eventually want to graduate, because I always had a motto where I said high quality content, low quality production. And I think there's a charm and an authenticity to that, because that's who I am. But at the same time, when I do videos with, like, I don't know if you guys know Hungry in LA, Eddie Sanchez, he does my like El Pato, Apple Pan, Tapatio, kind of the nicer Langer's Deli, like the ones that look nicer and feel more stylish.
Yeah.
Like, I want that for every video. So at a certain point, it would behoove me to learn a real software and do it the right way. But for now, I mean, it is working, and it does.
That's cool, man.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I like that. I like that approach.
I mean, to get to it, how did LA in a Minute actually get started? How was it created?
As I said, so like the initial episodes were literally me reading a newspaper, because my son would not read the newspaper. He was 8 at the time. And we were always having this battle over screen time. So I was telling him, like, read something, learn something, and then you could have screen time. You're always going to kind of lose that battle. This is just when he discovered TikTok. I was like, damn it. If he's going to watch content, he's going to watch good content. He can watch me tell him about like 3 stories that happened in LA yesterday, and that became LA in a Minute. Where
That's
just
pretty cool.
and not in any detail, but like my wife always said, I get my news from you. Like, so
That's awesome.
Everybody has their, and I've been that person that was called an information station, where I love getting information, and I'd be that dude that would text everybody, whether it was a big trade in sports. I remember like Darvish, the Dodgers got Darvish.
Oh yeah.
Like, I happened to be in a hotel room in New York, but like got the news as it broke, and I was like so excited to text people. Anyway, that's my thing, is like information in, but like
So
telling
cool.
people. And that's kind of what the LA in a Minute experience is about, is just like, again, we're learning together, because I don't know all this stuff. People have said, you're an encyclopedia or a historian, which doesn't, it's an injustice to actual historians, because I mean, I went to college, but I didn't study in that regard, so I'm not quote unquote qualified, but I love exploring, finding out that knowledge, and then packaging it up in kind of a fun, informative way.
You found your niche. Like, you found a way to make it deliver to people who are entertained by it and they like it, right? So there's something to that. And I gotta tell you, 3 of my favorite posts are the Covinas, Tommy's Burgers, and the Los Angeles First Vendor. So what I know, LA has a lot of firsts, right? Yeah. And I just want to know, when you're researching and putting this content together, I mean, do you purposely find those things like first for LA, like when you're going at it?
Funny is my son, like, he doesn't take a vested interest in all my episodes, but he's always like kind of listening and knows what's going on. And I always make sure my wife likes and comments on my but even still, so she'll always hear it.
Our wives don't support ours.
No.
They got
you got it going.
So that's he always is like, was LA first at everything? He's only 10 now, but like, he was like, was LA? But do I look for it? You know what it is, man? I'm always reading books on LA, and it's like every single one, there's something that blows my mind, whether it's like we were the orange empire, the capital of the citrus in the world at one point, the cattle capital at one point, the oil capital of the world, the mass transit capital of the world. So LA had so many of these superlatives that are so interesting because that's not necessarily what LA is today, but cattle, oranges, oil, all combined to make Los Angeles what it is. And again, we keep moving forward, keep moving to the future, and we always focus on the future. So I like seeing the past and knowing what the firsts were. So I stumble upon them as I'm reading, and I always bookmark a page. Not bookmark, I'll like dog ear, like fold it back and be like, I got to get back to that. I got to do a story on that. I can't wait. So that's sort of how it works. Yes, firsts are always fun because they're interesting. But again, it's just shining a light on LA's past because we rarely stop to think about it. Growing up in LA, I always heard LA has no history. LA has no culture. But
I think it's great that you do that.
No, yeah. And you know what? So we were, as we were doing our questions, we were going over some of your stuff, and it blew my mind when I seen AZ USA Azusa. So from A to Z, US and everything in the USA. I'm like, oh my, like mind blown.
He had a moment.
I had a moment that I'm like, whoa, okay, AZ Azusa. I'm like, wow.
But hold on though, just to clarify for your listeners and viewers, the city was not named that because it's A to Z, everything A to Z in the USA. That's what's called a backronym. It was named after the native tribe. I forget the proper name, but the white man interpretation of that was Azusa. And then the Chamber of Commerce, I don't remember the year, mid 20th century, sort of was like, wait a minute. So some genius on the Chamber of Commerce that was like, it was kind of a marketing slogan at that point where they're like, this works out. Where sometimes things just work out where you're like, yes, that was meant to be. So be careful because a lot of I present that it was a backronym in the episode because that's what I thought it was. And I had the same realization you did where I'm like, this is the dopest thing ever. Yeah. And it's kind of like a crossroads for trading and it makes sense. And I'm like, now I like Azusa more. But yeah, so
and we actually appreciate a lot of your content because you do touch, the SGV. We're from the SGV.
Yeah.
So shout out to the SFV because you're from the SFV.
You're from the valley, the other valley.
So
I always say the other valley.
I haven't even touched the SGV like I should. I do some Monterey Park, Rosemead, Arcadia a little bit, but there's so much out there. And in fact, like San Gabriel in itself, that was before Los Angeles. I mean,
and that was Pomona. You got to touch Pomona.
It's funny. I'm starting to mention Pomona more because I have a new kind of slogan. It's not a slogan, but it just works. I've always said LA from Silmar to San Pedro because you got up north to the bottom. But now I say from Pomona to Pacific Palisades. So from the east to the west.
I mean, it is LA County, right? I mean, technically speaking.
And technically, Claremont is the last city in LA.
That's right. So there you go. I mean, there's a lot of history.
Claremont, I've done Claremont, the city of trees and PhDs, man.
Yes,
there's more
that is
trees
true.
per capita in Claremont and all those huge
good college town. Good college town. Pitzer, McKenna, great college town.
Where are you guys at exactly, by the way?
What's that?
Where are you guys in the SG?
We're in Upland right now, but so we're a city away from
Claremont. So I grew up in Baldwin Park, and he's from La Puente.
La Puente. So there we go. SGV guys.
Dude, Baldwin Park, in and out, La Puente, the old Spanish style of the bridge instead of
that's right.
The bridge. That's right. Bridgetown.
I think that's why the references to Covina, the Covinas in West Covina, and how you did that was so, it kind of stood out to me like that, where I'm like, wow, like, because that was like my stomping grounds. My mom still she still has her house right there in Covina today, right there by the
I think
by the
it's
IKEA.
Hilarious, the Covinas one. So whenever I'm doing neighborhoods or any story, one of my favorite things to do is stumble upon, I call them nuggets. I mean, I didn't make that like that. That's just what I call like a nugget where I find it and I'm like, bro, this is like going to make the whole episode. Because people like the history. I like the history. You can just tell a story A to Z, and sometimes it's just a great story. But there's certain things where I'm like, what's the hook here? What's the big deal? And the Covinas, when I found out that they like broke apart because of a dispute over sewage, I was like, that's so dope. It's so random because you're like, a guy, I'll tell you this. I used to date a girl in college, a woman who lived in West Covina. And that was my first experience ever, like going out there. I obviously driven through it, but that was the first time I ever had like destination West Covina. And I remember thinking, I'm like, why have I always heard of West Covina? I don't even know if there's a Covina proper. Like, truthfully, I'd like heard West Covina, then I go to West Covina. So it always kind of stood out to me, like West Covina versus Covina. And then to find out the reason, and then to find out it was like over a dispute over something like that, I just got a huge kick out of it. And I was, look, and this is the truth. It's funny. I'm not big YouTube guy. I'm more socials, but I put my stuff on YouTube. That's one of my most popular YouTube videos for whatever reason. That one like keeps getting traction. So I guess people sort of like that hook, and
it's really good, man. It's really good. That's why I had to bring it up. It's one of my favorites, guaranteed, man. And
what is up? This is your LA in a minute, and in this edition of the LA Taco Neighborhood Project, you're going to get a twofer, both Covinas, West Covina and regular Covina. The thing is, this story needs to be told together because the reason why there are two Covinas stems from a pretty nasty problem. Let's get into it. So Covina, as you may have guessed, is the older of the two. For about 8,000 years, it was homeland to the indigenous Kiz, Gabrieleño, and Tongva people, and subsequently became part of Rancho La Puente. But it was founded in 1882 by Joseph Swift Phillips, who acquired the land after it had been a failed coffee plantation owned by three Costa Rican brothers, the Valdias. But the reason why Covina got its name is from this young engineer, Frederick Eaton. He was so impressed by how the San Gabriel Mountains formed a cove around the vines from the vineyards that had been planted that he combined the two words, cove and vine, and called the new township Covina in 1885. The city began to grow around its burgeoning downtown, and farmers blanketed the area with grapefruit trees, orange trees, and walnut groves. By 1909, Covina was already the world's third largest producer of oranges. But as the population grew, the need for infrastructure grew as well. And the tiny little city of Covina, only 7 square miles, didn't have the land. And what happened next was a nasty fight over that infrastructure, specifically the sewage and where to put it. The city of Covina had been buying land near Baldwin Park, Whittier, and what would become West Covina because they were all potential landing spots for Covina's sewage. Political and court battles ensued, and 507 residents of the area where the sewage farm was likely to be built banded together and voted to become an independent city, West Covina. Benjamin Franklin Maxon Jr. led the battle and became the first mayor and presided over the flourishing walnut and orange groves of West Covina. West Covina thrived and became one of the fastest growing cities in the United States in the 1950s, with the population exploding tenfold. It was very residential and didn't have any businesses to tax and thus had no revenue, and at the same time became known as the worst speed trap in California. Enough money was raised to repave all the streets of West Covina. Covina continued to grow in the mid-20th century as well, although it practiced redlining, which was an unwritten racial code prohibiting the presence of Mexicans, blacks, and Jewish people. Covina has evolved even as it's managed to maintain and preserve that old downtown feel. Modern day Covina also does a good job of pushing more pedestrian-friendly events in that downtown. Covina is also the sister city of Jalapa, Mexico, which gifted it a 7-ton Olmec head in 1989, which is now in the city center. And present-day West Covina fashions itself as the headquarters city of the San Gabriel Valley. And what about that sewage farm that was supposed to be built in West Covina and is the reason why West Covina even exists? Well, it ended up being built in regular Covina. All right, LA, it's been a minute.
And you know what I like a lot too. I got to bring this up too because the consistency of your delivery on each of these videos that you put together. I know you put a lot of work into these things. So I want to point out when you came up with that tagline, "Let's get into it." Did you? Did you think that it would take off like that? Because I know on Good Day LA and KTLA, I know that they hit you up with the same question, but I'm not going to do it right here too.
No, they don't. Well, people like to have me say it or whatever, and it's cool. and I'm not. Yeah. I'm no shame. Like that is like a tagline. Oh yeah. Here's what I want to know. I haven't stopped. I want to know the first video that I said it because at the beginning, and it's funny. My wife sometimes makes fun of me lovingly, but I used to just do, and the first like video of this nature that I did was the LA River because I walk across the LA River every day to work. And you guys know the river. We're proud of it. But that shit ain't a river. Like,
Trash.
I was just in New Hampshire. Like, what's New Hampshire? But guess what? New Hampshire has a raging ass river that's like, yo, I ain't even getting near that thing.
Right.
You know?
You're
like,
scared of
like,
it.
It's like a real dude. RL River. It's a concrete channel that's dry 9 months a year. And I grew up in North Hills, right next to the river. Nobody called the river; they called it the Wash. So I was walking across the river one day, and I was like, why do they? Is this even a real river? Like, what's the history of the river? So the video was a brief history of the LA River. So that used to be my like tagline, just because that's the way that I get into it. It's like a brief history of in and out. And so I don't know the first video where I was like, let's get into it. But sometimes I'll watch the old ones and be like, let's get into the history. And I was like, I don't know when it changed to let's get into it. But once it did, it just felt right. And I'll tell you this, who was telling me this?
It took off. It had to.
I was
so
doing
cool.
no. And it is. And I think truthfully, it's sort of a mechanism for like rhythm. It ends up working, but certain people have certain phrases, whether it's, you know what I mean? Or
like a lockout for a broadcaster, like at the
Like
end
Steve
of the
Gregory.
Yeah, like the end of the
Always
night.
has a
Like,
lockout.
have a good night, everybody, or like somebody, you know, whatever it may be. And I'm just being generic in that sense.
yeah,
but
because
I mean,
adds that sort of closure.
Personal.
So anyway, it just worked. I don't know when it quote caught on, but I do know that pretty early on, somebody had the ideas like you should make T-shirts that say "Let's get into it." And
You
I was like,
should.
all right, that's turned into
or
something. pretty-
haven't you have though? Because your merchandise. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's all good.
Your merch is out there as well, and you could find it on his Instagram
you.
at LA in a minute. And your merch is up there, and it is on your
One shirt. I have one dope shirt from the people at Merch Labs that created it that does say "Ellie in a minute." Let's get into it. But it's funny because that's not my logo. I mean, it's like a logo that I have, and you can have different designs and stuff. But I have a very staunch advocate that's like, bro, I don't like that. It's one of my favorite shirts, but he's like, that's not your logo. So like, so I don't know. I'm not a style guy. I mean, like, I don't know how brands work on that, but yes, that's the only shirt that says "Let's get into it." But I should rock some like normal ones.
pretty cool.
So is it just you that runs LA in a minute, or do you have a whole,
No, it's
group of
just-
people?
It's just me, except for the fact I have one producer for the podcast that does a very large amount of legwork because I have again, like I told you guys, I don't have any technical skills or ability. So he does I have the Zoom H6 and a Rode Procaster 2, the Rode Procaster 2.
That's what we use right here.
I don't like how it sounds, bro. It makes my voice, and it's probably ours, because again, I'm not a tech guy. I feel like my voice is a little bit like tinny.
Yeah, we hear that. We hear that a lot. A lot of times, I have to put some effects or filters on some people.
And that's what I'm saying. And Zoom H6, I was like, dude, that thing is sweet. So I record on that, but I just send him the file via Dropbox, and then he does all the rest. So that guy.
Oh, cool.
I also have a partner, like a producing partner, who was there since the beginning, and he did a lot as far as just like getting brand deals for the podcast. He actually pushed to get into a podcast, which I didn't know I was ready to do, but we were, and luckily that worked out. But as far as the videos, it's funny because today I had a call with a friend. Okay, you guys established that you're my age. I had a call with a friend who is my age.
Yeah.
And he has a son who just is entering his senior year at Cal State Northridge. And his son discovered this love of Los Angeles history and culture. So they were like, call Evan. He'll talk to you, see if he has an internship or whatever. And I like this kid and I like the family and I wanted to feel him out. But I was like, dude, I need an intern. I need somebody. But here's the problem. Like you guys found out with scheduling, I'm too impetuous to just have a rigorous schedule. I do like to schedule like my days, and I'm going to go out to like Montebello this day and cover these 3 things, or I'm going to be in Baldwin Park to, as you said, to cover Monrovia, to cover these things. But I don't know how I'd outlay those responsibilities, especially because the most time-consuming stuff for me is the research.
Right.
I do a lot of research, and I say this, accuracy is my currency. because with my style of like reporting, I can't, if I tell you guys that Covina became Covina, West Covina because of sewage dispute, and somebody's like, no, that's bullshit. Like West Covina needed more trees or whatever. Like it would undermine everything. So I got to do research, double check, triple check. And also finding those nuggets is an expedition that I honestly enjoy. And I'd hate to leave something on the table. Like I know when I'm ready to go to publish or to write a script, I've done all the research. I've found everything that I'm going to find. And if somebody DMs me after an episode, like, dude, dope episode, but you forgot the blah, 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 I kind of like kick myself. So I try to be very thorough. So that's the stuff that's the most time consuming. And I could entrust it to somebody else, but I'd sort of, I'd feel that I didn't give it my entire effort. And I think that's the reason why the episodes are so thorough is because I do. So, but I know there's stuff that they can do. But to answer your question, yeah, it's me, the guy who produces the podcast, and then kind of an idea/business guy.
And then you were recently invited to speak at CSUN, and I know that your dad was an alum at CSUN.
Yeah.
Yes.
How was that experience? Not only and your wife. That's right, and your wife. I mean, how was that experience to be able to speak at the university that your dad, that your wife, but not only and then also your dad? How was that experience, and how did that feel to actually, pay respects to your father?
Thank you for covering that. I got so many comments on that. First and foremost,
very cool.
I went to UCLA. Okay.
Oh, so, listen, I remember that post. I did see that post that you did.
I'm like a detached alum, and some of my other like UCLA buddies kind of resent that. But the thing is, I don't feel connected to the university. I feel, and I'm going to answer your question, but I feel that the campus is special, the university is special. I'm proud to be a Bruin, but I don't feel that connection. Whereas even Cal State Northridge, which I didn't attend, but I grew up right down the street off of Nordhoff, and I would go to their baseball. 5 years I went to their baseball camp. We drove through the orange groves and on our bikes. I heard your episode about that one. I used to break into the Matadome. That's their basketball arena. They're D1 basketball team. They weren't at the time.
Wow.
D1. And we used to break in the Matadome on Friday nights and play basketball. Wow. And like, so I have like great connection. My dad used to call it the finest institute of higher learning. So I feel more of a connection for CSUN. So when they asked me to speak to incoming freshmen, I was like, all right, not only is this dope, but I got to pay respect to my dad, to Northridge, to the Valley, which I rep hard, pretty hard. And look, I'm an LA guy, but you know what's the closest to your heart, what you know the best. I'm not going to front. I explore San Pedro and, Wilmington and Boyle Heights, and I love these areas, but I know the Valley. And so I wanted to really like step up and give an actual speech instead of just like here's some facts or here's some fun or a Q&A. And to honor my dad, which I did by kind of leading with him. And he's the reason that sort of Cal State Northridge was at the forefront of my mind, like growing up, and why it was a special place, even though people considered it a commuter school or things of that nature. He had always planted that in my head. So that was a big part of my speech. So it was really nice to pay that tribute.
That's awesome.
To be honest with you, for me, I've always had that creative itch and producing content, as they say. But I was a journalist coming out of school. I worked for the LA Times. I had a blog. I had an email newsletter, all that kind of stuff. I just like writing. I like, again, information station. But to get a platform to speak and put together something meaningful that is in line with what I'm doing and significant in that regard, that people listen to, was really cool. And truthfully, I think it was a good speech. I
Did you record it
on an episode of the podcast, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was like a special moment.
Did you record the speech?
Did you record your speech?
No, I thought.
Oh man, that would have been awesome.
They only took still photos, so I have still photos, but
cool.
I did like reread it on a recent episode of the podcast. So
nice. We'll have to go back to the podcast and listen to the speech. But I'm when you brought it up, I was like, okay, but I'm going to piggyback on that because I also did see this when we were looking things up earlier this year. You received a resolution from the LA City Council. Now, explain exactly what that is, because when we saw it and we saw the video, we saw that how you gave props to your wife. You got a little bit emotional. I thought that was really cool. And you get, just the connection that you have to the city of Los Angeles and the councilwoman the councilwoman who
Melda Padilla.
Yes,
Yeah.
who gave you that honor.
I just met her brother at Rhyme Fest, by the way, but we'll get into that. But go on.
No, but I mean, tell us a little bit. What was that about? Like the city council recognize. What is the resolution behind that? I'm curious. Oh, we're gonna get a picture. Yeah, that's what's up, man. Oh, there we go. That's beautiful.
So, like, in and of itself, that's pretty cool. Like, not gonna lie.
That is awesome, man.
What's funny, when they told me they were gonna quote unquote honor me with the resolution, I didn't know what that meant.
Neither did we. That's what we had to ask.
And Imelda Padilla is a hometown. She's a Valley girl. Dude, she's gonna kill me. I think she went to Poly. It might be San Fernando, but I'm pretty sure she was Poly. But I was Monroe, so that was like kind of either way. Like I have memories. They were in our conference, like sports conference. So I remember. But I think she went to Poly. She's a Valley girl, and she reps like Ellie in a minute. Her staff was nice. So I just thought it was gonna be a little ceremony in her office. 12 to 20 people, like thank you. And that would be dope. And even that, I was like, that's dope. Let's do it. That sounds great. And then so like the week prior, they were like, we need your bio, we need some pictures.
Oh man, that's huge.
You know, they were pretty like strict of the people who are coming. We need license plates, we need full name. I was like, license plates, like that's crazy. But it's at City Hall, and it turns out that the ceremony was like in the City Hall rotunda with the entire city council.
That's
and
crazy.
The entire city council has to sign off on it, and they actually each one has to sign it. So what the resolution is it's a declaration of positive contribution from myself and LA in a minute or the city of Los Angeles, and it kind of goes on the permanent record for Los Angeles, like somewhere in the annals in the history books. And it was really cool because I got to say a little. My wife and son were there, and then some of the city council people said something and introduced themselves. And
so good.
I always had, I don't want to say dreams of going into politics, but man, I've always been concerned, aware, and also away from the bullshit of party polarization. I feel like I've, again, and I hope this comes out in my videos, I really try to be objective about whatever. Of course, we have biases. Everybody does.
Of course, yeah.
But I also think if me and you disagree, it doesn't make you a stupid idiot ignoramus, and like both sides feel that way. And I'm like, dude, everybody and I'm getting somewhere with this. And I'm like, everybody wants what's best for their family. Like they might have a different way of going about it, but nobody wants to be like F you to everybody. Anyway, not the point. The point is, I've always felt, why can't politics be more like that? And it's not. That's not a realistic viewpoint.
Unfortunately,
but I pay attention because I want to have an opinion on all this stuff, and I want to be involved to some capacity. So yes, the moment at City Hall with all these politicians that I've heard, Paul Krikorian, who was I think he's the outgoing city council president, used to live a block away from me. It was like, ooh, you know, like that kind of stuff. But like Mayor Karen Bass, like that's pretty cool. Meeting with the mayor, like her or hate her, you're like, dude, that's the mayor of one of the biggest and most important cities in the world, and my mayor. So like, hell yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like a big deal historically, but it was a
pretty big moment for all your contributions.
Yeah.
It was a reward for that. And I kind of think that that's something that's pretty special. And the feel of, you know, keep going. You're doing something good for the city, because again, that's why I do it, is like, LA is such a dynamic, complex place. And like, I'm not an idiot. There's some negative shit. Like, I don't like there's a new encampment right under my freeway off ramp right now. Like there is, you know, feels like there's crime issues, and like, you know, I see the river, you know, there's all kind. But at the end of the day, every place has its flaws, and all the positives of LA outweigh all that. And when you take the culture and the history and the people that are here, that makes it so special. Because again, I don't want to keep pounding the table on this, but it's the truth.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Grow up. I don't care if you're in Granada Hills, or if you're in Lenox, or if you're in Glendora. You got white people, black people, Koreans, Armenians, Mexicans, Salvadorians, Australians, Ugandans, like Persians, everywhere in between.
It's a good melting pot.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's so funny because the melting pot, thank you. Like I said, I know that there's certain communities that have certain demographics. I get that. The fact is, man, because we're all in our cars all the time and the city is so geographically big, you're rubbing elbows with people of every ethnicity, persuasion, identity, whatever you want to say. And that's a really special thing, because even though racism exists, I think that the people like meld together more behind the pride of Los Angeles than any city I've been to.
Yeah.
From the perspective like, wow, this is all these different, go to Dodger Stadium, go to Ryan Fest, like take a look around. And it's like, dude, that's a special thing, man. That's a very,
I love it.
So being that we only have a few minutes left, so I'm gonna throw some questions at you.
Yeah.
Condense them. So do you think you will ever run out of places to actually talk about in LA? And I know it's a stupid question, but do you think you'll ever at some point?
I'm 2 years and 7 months deep. So call that 730, maybe 1,000 days. I've done 1,500 episodes, and I'm worried that I'm not covering stuff fast. There's stuff that I'm trying to. Today I did one that I was like, I'm not going to get to this, but I have to. Apparently, Kookaroo's reopening. I didn't really care that much. It wasn't a place that was close to my heart, but there's this outpouring of support. And I looked at the story, and the Kookaroo story is such a dope LA story that I'm like, okay, have to cover this. And you got to make time for it. And there's all these stories that pop up, whether they're contemporaneous or the fact that there's all these historical Los Angeles people that I haven't even touched on or uncovered. All these books have dozens of stories per. And I mean, my vision is I'm 85 years old. I have 10,000 stories in the bank. And I'm like, fuck,
see
I didn't
Evan
get
out
to the
there,
last,
85 years old, his cane in
I
his
want to see that,
wheelchair.
dude.
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
I gotta ask before I wrap up, though, for sure. What are some of your favorite spots and posts that you've done so far in LA in this journey? And we did talk about you coming out to do the SGV soon, because we want you to definitely get into the history of that, because I do love your energy and your passion that you give per post. You can see like that it's the intensity in it. So what is your favorite ones in LA so far?
Man, it's so hard because I always get excited about all of them. I'll tell you this is the truth. The two things I discovered that are the two neighborhoods that I've fallen in love with by doing this, that I've been to previously, but never, I'm like, they're far. How it is sometimes in LA, you get insulated. You're like, I'm in this part of town, so I can't go there. It's an hour. Dude, everywhere. There's so many places like that. But LA in a Minute lets me open up LA, and I want to go and explore. San Pedro, first and foremost, I can't talk about enough. The port is the biggest port in the world, the economic engine of not just Los Angeles, but the United States. You got the Korean Friendship Belt. You have Sunken City. This is what makes San Pedro so charming. There's a city that fell into the ocean, but the ruins are still there on
really?
And it's called the Sunken City. So it's like they're ruins.
Oh, you got to do
Los
that
Angeles.
one, man.
You got historic Little Italy. I didn't even know LA had a Little Italy. That's in San Pedro. And then you got the St. Vincent Bridge, or not the Vincent Thomas Bridge.
Yeah.
That teal bridge that takes you past the port. Gorgeous, underrated, one of the best, most beautiful suspension bridges. So just discovering San Pedro, finding stories out like Sunken City, or conversely, Boyle Heights, which not just has El Tepeyac, the biggest burrito in Los Angeles.
Freaking amazing.
Los Cinco Puntos.
Los Cinco Puntos, yes.
Yeah, it's not just about the food, though. Boyle Heights is culture and lineage. It was the first major African-American community in the 1870s, 1880s, because it was one of the few places they could buy property. That turned into one of the biggest Jewish communities, not just in LA, but on the West Coast, one of the biggest Japanese communities. But then there was internment, which is tragic and terrible, but discovering all these LA stories like the internment or the Chinese massacre, things like that, are just like eye-openers historically that we brush under the rug. But after the Japanese left, it became an African-American community again. And then that evolved to the Latino community is today. So it has one of the most truly diverse backgrounds of any city anywhere, all with true deep pride and connections that are still kind of visible today. There's a Guatemalan church that's called Iglesia, I forget the word for Hebrew, like Hebreu or something in Spanish, because it used to be a temple and now it's a church. So you get things like that. And so what I'm reporting is always my favorite. I got an episode on the Tom's Guide coming out tonight. I have an episode on where your tap water comes from. I mean, just the LA aqueduct, all this stuff. The center point of Los Angeles. You know, there's a geographic center point of Los Angeles that you can go visit. That you can stand there and be like, I'm in the geographic center of Los Angeles.
I never heard you do that one too before as well. That one's a good one as well. I mean, I see a lot of your content, man. We're gonna have to wrap things up because I know you got things to do. I do, and this is crazy. Like your time, man. Like, this is awesome. Like we were.
No, this is really good.
Cool. But what kind of advice can you give to somebody that is like starting to plan something similar, not to what you're doing, but like just creating content and just giving it out?
In what way? Advice? Okay, you know what? I'll tell you. Here's the advice is find something you're passionate about, explore it, whatever it is. There's a community of people that are curious about that, just like you are. Do your homework, do your research, work hard, but be authentic. Don't be something you're not. I'll give you an example. We didn't even get into Rhyme Fest. I should probably come on again.
I know.
But something like that is way easier for me to cover than if I would go to like Stagecoach or something, right?
Yeah,
like a Stagecoach could pay me to go cover that, but I don't know that history. I don't know that culture. And like, so I think that staying true to yourself and being authentic and not pretending to be something that you're not is huge. And work hard because it's not easy. In short, be authentic. I had a good punch that boom, but whatever. In short, be authentic, work hard.
There it is. That's where you were headed that way.
Hard and you're going to question yourself, but keep doing it. If you believe in it and you keep doing it, you're going to do well.
Because you did mention though that if you have like a video that goes viral, you know what I mean? Then and you said how to be persistent on that and then follow up with something else. I do remember you saying that towards the end of it, and I was like, oh man, like that makes so much sense because some people once they get that viral video, there's like nothing else to follow it up. And then you've managed to put all this content together, and you've had multiple viral videos. I mean, I think that's the essence of what you do which is so good.
I don't even think I always think about this. I don't never put up big dog numbers. I'm never like 5 million even on a video, much less like 10 or 50 million. But I think what I do is I think my engagement and the community that's formed around my content is pretty loyal and pretty strong. And people have some other like, that's dope or that's funny. I think people really connect on the neighborhoods, the freeways, the people, the stories, the restaurants that I cover with the history and the context of the community. So it's not like virality. It's just sounds cliche, but legit quality content of Tap Innovate.
That Arroyo Seco piece that you did was amazing. Like, I mean, it's super informative.
Not only that, I mean, you put me up on game about the whole freeways, the 10, the 110, the 105. I had no idea about that.
Some LA stuff right there for sure, man.
I had no idea about that. And I'm like, wait a minute. That makes total sense.
Listen. I'll tell you this, and I don't want to keep harping on this, but this is truth. I follow a lot of like comedy feeds, and I always marvel at how difficult it is because humor can't be like research. You got to think of something funny or do something funny. And I'll tell you what, I get in shitty moods sometimes, and I'm like, last thing I want to do is try to be funny right now. I'm pretty sure everybody's like that. Sure. But if you're a comedy content creator, that's the onus on you, and it's tough. That's a tough mountain to climb. For me, all I gotta do is I always do have ideas. That's my whiteboard. But
nice.
if I'm out of ideas, all I gotta do is crack a book or something. So it's like coming up with content and just doing a good job isn't hard. It's just the willingness to put in the work. So
the effort.
That's the biggest piece of advice.
Yeah. And the one thing I wanted to say too is that I did listen to one of your recent podcasts about kids going back to school within the middle of summer. I'm like, this guy has a point. I'm like, why are they going back so soon? I remember I look back at my high school transcript because I'm trying to go through backgrounds with sheriffs. So, So I looked and I'm like, I have to look back when I started school, and it shows September 5th. And
Bro,
I'm
that
like,
shit was never before Labor Day.
No.
Labor Day. And I'll tell you how I know. My birthday is September 2nd, which is usually Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day.
But it's
Shout out
never
Virgos.
after Labor Day weekend. It's either before Labor Day weekend or Labor Day weekend. And I never in my life had to go to school on my birthday. Like, not, oh, my dad let me stay home. So it was always after Labor Day. And I remember with my kid, it would be like August 29th, then August 22nd, and then August 15th. And then this year, August 12th, I'm like, what are we doing, bro? Like,
That's crazy.
you know how hot it is? This is, if it was a national policy, I'd be like, well, I guess like some places don't have hot summer, but we're in LA, bro.
Yeah.
And like
Where's
hot
the summer?
Valley or the San Gabriel Valley or the basin, basically anywhere except by the beach, it's hot as fuck. And like,
It's hot.
we're inland,
Yeah,
so it
so
gets
we
hot
get
over
thank
here.
all
you.
the
The
heat.
valley and the valley know what's up with that heat.
It's
And
super
what's funny,
hot.
you know, the one that like got me the most fired up. Palm Springs has 28 schools. It costs their school district $7,000 a day, $6,500 a day to keep the air conditioning going in those schools during the summer. LAUSD has 1,000 schools, bro. So you're
Wow.
talking like 40 times that amount. So you're spending, the school district spending like $300,000 a day or whatever it is to keep the schools like, and I'm like, why are we doing that? So I also, but going back to the political thing, I was like, you know what it is though? There has to be a reason. Nobody's being like sadistic and like, hey, what these kids. So I at least wanted to know the reason. I don't need to agree with them, but I at least knew there were reasons. I wanted to uncover the reason. But I appreciate you listening and thank you.
No,
Cool, man.
yeah.
Hey,
The only reason I bring it up is because my kids just went back yesterday.
Okay.
And now next year, come to find out, they're going to be getting out earlier, but going in even much earlier.
Wow.
So I'm like, dude, this doesn't make any sense anymore.
How did they determine next year? All right, whatever. That's a different conversation.
I got a question though, because I looking at your stuff this past weekend. We just had a festival out here in Los Angeles, Rhymefest, and I love that you are a big hip hop fan, because I'm a DJ. And I've been DJing. I was a hip hop DJ for years, and I used to do stuff with Project Blowed for many years.
Really?
Yeah, MS. I'm a scratch DJ, the whole bit, right? So when you posted on at LA in a minute on Instagram, give him a follow. When you posted that, I was like, man,
Nice plug.
I'm all, this is cool as fuck. This dude, he's like all into hip hop, does dope ass shit about LA, like, you know, and because I love this city, you know, and Los Angeles. I love being the night vibe and everything about it. It's just so cool, which is why I gave you the follow years ago. And I was like, man, to talk to this guy. And now when we started to do this podcast, I was like, man. And then the Rhymefest thing came up, and I'm like, I gotta ask. So who's one of your favorite acts that you saw there? And how did you get connected with Rhymefest?
I was so excited about Rhymefest. So Scooby, aka Rafa, a Brazilian dude, contact me. I love LA in a Minute, love what you do. Like, I have heard a couple on your podcast. You like mentioned hip hop stuff. It seems like you mentioned like the right stuff. Take a look at this lineup and let me know what you think. And it's funny, I had seen that lineup because it's all the acts I grew up with. Of course, grew up on the West Coast. So early on, it was like DJ Quick. I remember the first time I heard a DJ Quick cassette tape at a CSUN baseball camp, at a Cal State baseball camp. Blew my mind. NWA record album, never seen it. Again, white kid like from the Valley, never seen anything like that. But then, of course, Dre, Tupac, all that stuff, West Side Connection, the whole bit. But going to college, you kind of expand your options a little bit, learn new stuff, see that there's more out there than just like what kids are bumping. And then it turns into like the Backpackers or like AC Alone, A Book of Human Language, Project Blow, Freestyle.
What an album.
Lamert Park. I used to freestyle. I used to rap, and people, I'd play it up. I'd be polo shirt, khakis, and I had a big, not afro, but like
is there any footage of that
blonde hair.
We got any footage of that available? Of you rapping on ripping up some freestyles, like, you know, Lamert
Dude,
Park
I'm ripping up a freestyle. Yo, it's like the G Chow back in the day. East style. Yo, they call me EP. LA in a minute. Want to get up in it because I'm going to do it till infinite now. So anyway, I used to like break it down. I used to break it down a little bit, but like, and again, I'm rusty, but get me in a bat. I used to love battling. Like, that was my fucking thing. And then Eminem comes along literally blows everybody's fucking shit. And like, so I used to try to record, right? Because people would see me in the battle. So producer would come up to me. I used to work with this guy, Coltrane, not John Coltrane, obviously.
Well, yeah.
But like, we'd record a little, but it never came through recorded because I'm always about passion and authenticity. When I'd write, I feel like I write dope shit, but I couldn't like convey the same raw emotion that like the great lyricists and the great rappers. So I just, hung up the mic, got another stuff. But like Murs is a great guy that came from LA. And he's the guy that made me realize LA doesn't have a ton of homegrown talent. It has a little bit, but it was starting to come up like in the 90s. Again, that Lamert Park. So those guys, and then finally like Blue, Dilated Peoples with dope. Evidence was coming through. But here's what gets me going now, bro. Like Coyote. Have you guys heard Coyote?
No.
Dude,
good.
So Scooby.
I have to dig him up.
So I agreed to do some stuff with Scooby, right? Because I was excited. And again, it was people that I used to watch, that I used to love, like growing up, Blue in Exile, DJ Newmark, like
nice.
All kinds of
Newmark with J5 and Cut Chemist.
J5, dude, living legends for Christ's sake. So hold on,
I gotta give props to my boys, Acid Rain. I mean,
dude, Planet Asia, not from LA, great fucking lyricist.
That's right.
Okay, so either way, Coyote, you guys gotta check it out. This is the thing. It's two Mexican dudes from Hawthorne, and they're young-ish, but like this guy Scooby was like, "Trust me, you're gonna like it. Trust me." I was like, "All right." I'm just driving one day. I put on Coyote. There's a song with Shaq of all people. Well, I used to like Shaq. I mean, I actually love Shaq. I was a guy who loved Shaq and Kobe, but as a rapper, I remember Fushnikins. But it's called Three Locos. It's Tres Locos, and the beat's just banging. But these two dudes are like, yo, they're spitting pretty dope. Shaq drops like kind of a pretty dope verse for him, but I was intrigued. So I got on, I'm on Apple Music. I know everybody's Spotify and all that, but I get on Apple Music.
I'm on Apple Music too, man. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that.
Get the album. It starts with Pop the Trunk, which is just one of those typical like West Coast bangers that you're like, okay, I see what these dudes are about. But they're doing this complex rhyme stuff where you could tell they're intelligent. You could tell they're like students of the rhyme of lyricism.
Yeah.
And then they got this track, La La Land, that I think is like an anthem of LA. But my point is, I feel, and I was able to actually meet them at Rhyme Fest, and we hung out for a little bit and it was dope. But I feel like these guys are taking that 90s sound and staying true to 90s like hip hop.
Like on some boom bap.
They're modernizing it. And it's also like, this is a different LA. Who's talking about Hawthorne and Lennox, right? Like I want to hear about that. And they got this different perspective. So that was like my favorite. Reverie blew up. She's like a female MC.
I've seen some of it, yeah.
I'm tough on female MCs. I feel like there's only been like 6 historically that have been super dope, but she killed it. And to be honest with, like, Blue in Exile were dope. Sage Francis was good. Planet Asia.
Did you get a chance to see all the Project Blowed All-Stars up on the stage during that time? Because a lot of my friends are from Project Blowed. Shout out to my guys Acid Rain, Beyond, and Gaja, R.I.P. But like, I know that Project Blowed had a lot of people on stage. They had
I got to see their highlights because I didn't get there till 5:15, bro.
Oh yeah, they were on at 4:30 or something like that.
Something for legends, no pun intended, like living legends, but they're legit LA legends. I was they kind of should have had a better spot because
I love that, man. I think it's great too because the fact that you know about Lamert Park, a lot of people. I mean, that's a foundational hip hop, location where a lot of things happen over there in the 90s especially, and it just spawned a bunch of different talent, and Murs included, and LA Synth included, and Bus Driver, and etc. You can keep going on.
Wow.
I mean, it just
remember that club, the Airliner? What was that called?
Of course.
What was that night called, bro?
I can't remember right now.
Not like Electric.
The good something. I'm totally.
We used to go to that all the time. Fuck. Why am I trying? Anyway.
Yeah. It was so
dude,
cool.
I got to get running pretty soon.
Okay, cool. So one more thing, man. We really do appreciate your time, and we got a question for you. I love the final thought. Are you planning on doing a TV show? And if you do a TV show, do you need a producer and an editor?
Bro, somebody get at me about that. That's literally the dream. Whether it's KCET or PBS or Netflix, Hulu, Paramount Plus. I am absolutely interested because I would like to do my format 3 7-minute versions of like LA in a minute, but in one big episode that becomes cohesive, whether it's like themed as far as different. This is the Boyle Heights episode. This is the Reseda episode or whatever.
Nice.
This is an infrastructure episode. This is a freeway episode, whatever, how that kind of comes together. But almost that format of like 3 different episodes with it. But yes, I'm down. I have nothing going right now, but somebody get at me for sure.
That is awesome.
That
hey, Evan, thanks for your time, man. Can you do me a favor and plug all your socials one more time for everybody out there and just let us know, man?
Just go LA in a minute. Instagram, TikTok, Threads, even Facebook, YouTube. What am I forgetting? Twitter, X. LA in a minute podcast in a minute with Evan Lovett. Check that out. That's a longer form, like 30 minutes to an hour of talking about LA facts, history, tidbits, but more conversational and fun. Thank you guys.
Very cool, man.
Thank you.
Evan Lovett, LA in a minute. Thanks everybody for checking it out.
Appreciate you so much for coming on.
Russ and Rojo, glad I tapped in, bros. I'll talk to you
brother.
soon. Thanks, guys. Be good.
Take care, man.